Why me?
Hello everybody, my name is Jenny. My channel is Senior Perspective on Sister Wives. And today I'm going to talk a little bit more about the interview that Kody Brown did with the podcast called Mormonism Live, which is posted online on YouTube on a website that used to say Mormonism Live, but it doesn't anymore. It says Mormon Discussions, Inc. So that's how you can find it. Let's pick up where we left off, shall we? So this is an interview that these two ex-Mormons who have their own YouTube page did with Kody. It is multiple hours long, and because of that, we know when Kody keeps talking, he just makes a fool of himself. The next question that I haven't covered in my first 4 videos, I think I have 4 videos already. The next question Bill presented, I don't know the other guy's name. Bill said, it seems like if your time is divided amongst these women, that you're probably getting the best and the happiest version of each wife when you are with them, because they do not want to be the nagging wife when you're there. As Bill starts asking the question, Kody's nodding. By the time he finishes, Kody's not nodding. Kody said, no, it doesn't work like that. He goes on to say they will sooner or later explode.
It just doesn't work. They sooner or later they're going to explode.
So I guess he's implying because they know they will sooner or later explode, they choose not to try to pretend to be the dutiful, happy wife when he's there. Which is interesting because that is not what Christine said, right? Do you remember Christine talking about when Kody would come to her house that it was like effortful for her? I mean, she's said multiple times, life is easier without Kody. When Kody's not here, things run smoother. If the sister wives go do something and Kody's not there, we have a better time. This has been a repeated thing by Christine over the years. And I remember her specifically saying, when Kody's there, I'm thinking about what is his favorite food? How does he always likes the house a certain way. He likes things put a certain way. Like he expected things to be in their place, everything to be organized, everything to be done a certain way. He had expectations for Christine that clearly he does not have for Robin. We've seen her house. So Kody goes on, and this is what he says. You know, everybody gets in a bad place, and ironically, there's a pause. A woman who shares her husband has given so much that in the path to perfection, sometimes she might feel like that's enough. I felt like I was constantly doing this dance where I was like, hey, are you okay? Are you happy? I just want you to be happy. I'm just trying to make everybody happy all the time.
I felt like I was constantly doing this dance where I was like, hey, are you okay? Are you happy? I want you to be happy. I'm just trying to make everybody happy all the time. And it's kind of like running around all the time trying to keep everybody happy. And that was my job.
Okay, we'll start from the end and backtrack here a little bit. First of all, Kody, let me let you know. By walking around and saying, hey, are you okay? Are you happy today? Are you okay? That is not how you try to make somebody happy. Asking somebody if they're happy is not trying to make them happy. Where did he get this idea from? Oh, all I have to do is say, hey, are you okay today? And I've done my due diligence. He goes on to say, I was running around trying to keep them all happy, and that was my job. Oh, if that was your job, Kody, you failed miserably. Nobody was happy but Robin. Robin wasn't even happy. Robin's never happy. But he probably did put the most effort into making her happy. It's just hard to make a chronic victim happy. But in terms of the other wives, the effort he put in to make them happy, I'd love to know what it was. So if we go back to the beginning of the answer to this question, when he said, oh, they should all be happy all the time. And he says, no, it doesn't work like that. Sooner or later, everyone's going to explode. He goes on to say, everybody gets in a bad place. Okay, true. I'm not going to argue with that. And ironically, there's a woman who shares her husband has given so much. Okay, we've just changed the subject. So like we're starting to answer it and then left turn. Ironically, there's a woman who shares her husband has given so much in the path to perfection. Sometimes she might feel like that's enough.
So, you know, everybody gets in a bad place. And ironically, there's a woman who shares her husband has given so much that in the path to perfection, sometimes she might feel like that's enough.
What is he even trying to say there? So is he admitting that his wives were working really hard at pleasing him? That they were trying to achieve perfection? This was a previous video where we talked about the pearl of great something. I don't know. It's been like 3 months since I made that video. But there's a book in the Mormon faith that my understanding of it, based on the Bible verse and based on what Kody said about this book, is that your goal is to keep striving every day to be perfect. I don't know why. Nobody's perfect. Nobody ever will be. What a frustrating life that would be. Striving to be the best you can be, that's one thing. Striving for perfection, that's another. So he's saying that his wife were on the path to perfection every day. And so they felt like at times that's enough. Well, yeah. What more do you want from them other than they're trying to be the most perfect wife for you? Honestly, it's like he wanted them to be perfect. He admits they're on the path to perfection and working towards that, but they might feel like that's enough. What more do you want, Kody? I don't understand. But these words just don't make sense. Maybe he meant something completely different. That's very possible, but these are the words he said. So he went on to say, I was running around trying to keep them all happy because that was my job. Fail. And he said their job wasn't to keep me happy, which contradicts the whole path to perfection and why aren't they working harder? Now he says their job isn't even to keep me happy. What is their job? I don't, the undefined lines or the changing of the lines is making my head spin. So now he's saying their job wasn't to keep me happy. But he goes on, even though, as a smart woman, that's going to work better for you. Ew. He's so creepy.
And it's kind of like running around all the time trying to keep everybody happy. And that was my job. And their job wasn't to keep me happy, even though, as a smart woman, that's going to work better for you.
So he's admitting that it's a works-based criteria and level in terms of earning his love and his respect that he claims nobody gives him, but clearly he's not giving out either. You have to earn it from him. You have to work hard. As a smart woman, it would work better for you if you tried to keep him happy. It was just a crude way to put it. All in all, the overall philosophy I agree with. You do little things for your husband that makes him happy, he's going to be in a better mood. Things are going to go better in the house. If your husband does little things for you that puts a smile on your face and puts you in a good mood, things will run smoother in the house. The overall philosophy is okay. It's his crude way of presenting it. That'll work better for you if you work harder, basically. So then he goes on to try to explain that and says, but they felt like they had given enough. Okay, so now we're going back to where the wives were trying to work towards perfection, so they're not trying even harder again. So we're back to that idea. His brain is bouncing back and forth like the little ball. But they felt like they had given enough, and so there was always, I don't remember a time where I don't remember a very long time when all my wives seemed like they were happy at the same time. Woo! That was exhausting to get to that, wasn't it? Can you imagine having to talk to him on a daily basis and understand what he's trying to say. He works so hard at not getting to the point. I don't know why. I don't know why he has to make language so difficult.
But they felt like they had given enough. And so there was always, I don't remember a time where I don't remember a very long time when all of my wives seemed like they were happy at the same time.
And the sentences don't even make sense. He was talking about they felt like they had given enough, but now we're talking about if they're all happy at the same time. So the sentence starts on one topic and completely morphed into another with a whole bunch of filler words in between. Let's read it again for fun. But they felt like they had given enough. And so there was always, I don't remember a time where I don't remember a very long time when all my wives seemed like they were happy at the same time. It's exhausting. We just threw in like 4 more lines of dialogue in there that weren't necessary. That very last line is really all he had to say. Okay, this makes me laugh. I was looking at my notes here, and I wrote, he goes on to say, out of the 5 of us, somebody was always off. Sometimes 2 were off. Sometimes all were a little off. And I wrote, OMG, shut up. Sometimes 1 was off. Sometimes 3 were off. Sometimes just the wives were off. And he just goes on to say, sometimes I was off. Sometimes they were off. But seldom were we all doing fantastic. Well, of course. I mean, there is no way in your household everyone's going to be doing fantastic. They can't. Like, I'm not doing fantastic. And I'm just sitting here trying to read words that you said. And you're giving me anxiety, and I'm not in a good mood right now. So I can imagine what it's like to live with Kody Brown. Oh my goodness. No. I think it's amazing that seldom they were all doing fantastic. There were times when everybody was doing fantastic. I don't even know how that's possible, but that's amazing. Kudos. But he doesn't stop. He goes on. He goes, and I just wrote in the margins, no, not again. He said, and it was a very big deal for the family. DILL, of course. This big family picture gave us all a lot of sense of accomplishment. I circled here in the margin. I must have gone back. This was 3 minutes of a rambling answer to the guy's question. We go all the way back here. The question was, I would think that most of the wives are giving you the best part of themselves when you're at their homes, right? All this and this. 3 minutes of him just talking, pausing, holding the floor so nobody else talks. It was a real big deal. The family, this big family picture, gave us all a lot of sense of accomplishment. Wow. Is that not telling right there? Kody has been harping for years about the big family picture. We need to have the big family. Why do we have to have the big family? You know, and I kept saying, you have the big family. You're living in different houses. You're still a family. My kids have grown up, gotten married, gone off to college. We're still a family. It didn't change because they're not living under the same roof anymore. But somehow, in his work mind, it's different. And here he explains why. In his mind, a big family is a sense of accomplishment. Check the box. Everyone's going to look at us like we're doing a good job.
And it was a big deal. The family, this big family picture, I think gave us all a lot of the sense of accomplishment. We felt special.
As a family, you have to have lots of wives, lots of kids. Everyone has to get along, and we all have to live under the same roof. And what do you get for that?
Accomplished.
I felt very, very special.
I don't think there's any kudos in heaven for that per se. I don't think there's any doctrine that says you must live under the same roof. If there is, let me know. I don't know all the AUB doctrines, but I find that hard to believe. But Kody sees it all as a sense of accomplishment by having that. So when Christine is like, I am not moving back under one roof with everybody else, this was smashing Kody's dream of having a high level of accomplishment for all to see. Who to see? I don't know. The elders in the church, his friends. Maybe he thinks us as viewers would see it as a big accomplishment. I don't know.
Look at me! Look at me!
But in his head, that's a big accomplishment. Oh, I'm going to go on just a little bit more. Bill says that it seems like this polygamous lifestyle is very difficult on everybody, and that there is a sacred loneliness involved in it. Like, it just seems inherently a part of it to have loneliness. Kody says no. Even though we had a whole answer before in another video about sacred loneliness, how we quoted the book, how we quoted the author, how sacred loneliness has been going on ever since the days of Joseph Smith. But here, when Bill brought it up, well, it seems like it's very difficult on everybody and definitely would be a sense of sacred loneliness. Kody says, no.
But you said...
Bill must be like pinching himself underneath the table going, am I alive? Am I hearing this? Am I on a hallucinogenic drug right now? Is this man giving me completely opposite answers but saying it as if it's fact? Kody says he had a friend once who was defending the man's side and kind of rebuting the sacred loneliness. Who is this friend? Our cross-eyed friend Nathan. Remember him in the car talking to Kody? Basically, that car conversation is what he's quoting here. And he starts off by saying, I have a friend who was in polygamy. Well, he had 2 wives until one left. Oh, so now he's not in polygamy. But he's going to give you advice that you're now going to quote on this national broadcast. I don't think this is your best source, Kody. Come on, Nathan. He only has 1 wife, but he's going to give us doctrine and information and teach us about sacred loneliness. All right, so we morph from sacred loneliness right now into, is being in polygamy fair? Oh, just wait. I almost don't want to approach this because it's so messed up that I just want to go, your words. They don't make sense. But let's try. So he said, I had a friend one time when I was complaining about the struggles and disparity in polygamy. Okay. And I'm like, listen, even in here, I'm like, and he's like, and she's like. He never says, and she said, and he said, and he thought, and she quoted, and he responded. None of those words are in his vocabulary. I'm like, and he's like, and I'm like, and he's like. Oh. The amount of work I put in to beat that word out of my kids when they were in middle and high school. And I've still failed with one of my kids. One of my children still uses that word a lot, way more than she should. I'm still working on it though. Okay. So Kody says, I was complaining about the struggles of polygamy and the disparity. And I'm like, listen, this disparity and fairness in plural marriage is just too much. And then he goes on to say what his friend said. But we have to stop there. Can we look at the sentence for a second? The disparity and fairness in plural marriage is just too much.
What?
Disparity is something that's unfair. When there's an inequality, an unfairness in something. So let's just use that in place of disparity. The inequality and unfairness and fairness in plural marriage is just too much. That's what he said. These are his words. Am I wrong? I'm sorry. I'm on my computer. I'm going to look up disparity. This is how I know disparity. Inequality, unfairness. Oh, here we go. It's starting to pop up right away. Disparity. Disparity. Lack of similarity or equality. Inequality. A disparity in age, a disparity in rank. All right, that's what I thought. Disparity is the condition of being unequal. Okay. Noticeable difference. Okay. So the inequality and fairness in plural marriage is just too much. Too much fairness here. Things are just too equal. We got to mix it up. This doesn't make any sense. All right, we're moving on. I don't know how we can move on because this is like topic sentence, and so the rest isn't going to make any sense either. All right, so the disparity in fairness in plural marriage is just too much. And he said, referring to Nathan, he said, oh, this is where he talked about, and he said, and he steps aside and said, he's a former polygamist, and he would still be if he hadn't had a wife leave. He's great at it. He's such a great, he only had 2 wives and one of them up and left. This is the brain trust of which Kody's pulling from, to quote Nathan. Okay, he said, there is no disparity in fairness. There's no inequality in fairness. There's no unfairness in fairness. Oh. So there's no disparity in fairness if there's not a disparity in choice. In other words, okay, if there's not an inequality, so it's not unequal in fairness and unfairness if there's not inequality in choice. What do these words mean together? Does anybody understand these words? You could tell the guys were just glossing over it, like, yeah, fairness, unfairness. Okay, let's move on. You sit here and try to analyze what he's saying. He's not saying anything. He's making 0 sense. There is no disparity in fairness if there's not a disparity in choice. In other words, oh good, he's going to explain it for us. If that woman can choose to be in your family or out of your family, then there's no disparity. There's no unfairness in plural marriage because she chose to be in it. The most ridiculous thing I ever heard. What do these 2 things have to do with each other? I chose to marry somebody and everything is going to be fair in our lives because that was my choice. A woman who chooses to marry somebody and he ends up being an abuser, it was her choice. You chose to be in the family and therefore there's no disparity. There's no unfairness. You chose to join that softball team, and there's no unfairness. I know your kid is sitting on the bench and he hasn't picked up a bat the entire season, but he chose to be on that team, so there's no disparity. Your kid's in dance or competitive cheer, completely subjective sports, or some gymnastics. No disparity because they chose to be in that sport. When you choose to be in it, there's no disparity. What?
Makes no sense.
If you believe it by faith, I had a friend one time when I was complaining about the struggles, this disparity in polygamy, and I'm like, listen, this disparity in fairness in plural marriage is just too much. And he said, no. He's a former polygamist, and he would be still if he hadn't had a wife leave. He said, there is no disparity in fairness if there's not a disparity in choice. In other words, if that woman can choose to be in your family or out of your family, then there's no disparity. She chooses to be part of a plural family or she chooses not to be.
And then he goes on to say, the problem is, though, even though it's completely fair, there's no disparity, the problem is that people who choose to do this are often very young, and so they don't really understand. Understand what? That the whole thing is fair? Understand what? Help us understand what they don't understand. He goes on to say, you don't even know what it's like to live with the other women. You don't even know who you are. And you don't even know who the people you're entering into this group relationship with are. And he goes on to say, we don't know who they are, they don't know who are, we don't know, that you barely know who you are. And then he goes on to say, right, because often, look how many marriages are out there in the world. So there is disparity. There is unfairness. It's not all equal in sunshine and roses. Thank you for rambling enough that you completely contradicted yourself and now we're in the truth. I'm so exhausted. Where are we on time? We have to stop here for now. It's getting me too worked up. I'm shocked that so many of you are like, can you do more of his Mormonism live and analyze his speech? I don't know how you find this enjoyable. Maybe it would be more enjoyable if I was just watching somebody else critique it. I feel like I'm suffering. I really do. I feel like it's like I'm being punked. It's like somebody's giving me a transcript or I'm writing down what's being said word for word, but it's not really true. It's like, analyze this. Nobody would ever say this, but analyze it anyway. Like an exercise in grad school for speech-language pathology, just for the fun of it. We're going to stop there and move on from this topic on the next video. Oh, I'm sweating. You take care. I'm going to go take a drink. Maybe I'll come back and try to record another one so I can post it in a few days. And let me just leave you with this nugget of information. The disparity and fairness in plural marriage is just too much. Quote of the day. Have a great day. Bye.